Fire lookout towers are often isolated, perched high above the wilderness, offering panoramic views of dense forests below. While their purpose is to guard against the danger of wildfires, these lonely outposts sometimes harbor stories far more chilling than the flames they monitor. Here are 3 terrifying tales from fire lookouts, each steeped in mystery, fear, and lessons that endure. Atop Mount Silver in Montana stood an old fire lookout tower known for its breathtaking views and its ominous history. Over the decades, several watchmen had reported seeing a dark figure lurking at the edge of the forest. Most dismissed it as a shadow or an animal. In the summer of 1992, Emily, a college student looking for solitude and adventure, took the job as the lookout for the season. She loved the peaceful days and the quiet nights, with only the stars for company. But her calm was shattered one evening. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the forest, Emily spotted movement below. A man, or at least what looked like one, stood motionless at the tree line. She called out, but there was no response. Thinking it might be a lost hiker, she grabbed her flashlight and descended the tower. When she reached the spot, the figure was gone. But something caught her eye, a series of footprints leading deeper into the forest. Against her better judgment, she followed them. The tracks led her to a small clearing where the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. She noticed strange symbols carved into the trees, their meaning unknown but deeply unsettling. Suddenly, a whisper broke the silence. Emily, it was her name, spoken softly but unmistakably. Panicking, she turned and ran back to the tower, locking the hatch behind her. All night, she heard faint whispers and the sound of footsteps circling the base of the tower. The next morning, she reported the incident. The ranger she spoke to simply nodded and said, "You've met the Watcher. Stay in the tower next time." Emily finished her term but never returned. She later learned that the area had been sacred to a local tribe, and the Watcher was said to guard it from intruders. Moral: respect the land and its history. Some places are protected by forces beyond our understanding. In the remote hills of Oregon, a fire lookout known as Ridgecrest had a peculiar legend. Locals spoke of a fire that burned without consuming, seen only during the darkest nights. Liam, a seasoned lookout, dismissed these tales as folklore. He had worked at Ridgecrest for years and never seen anything unusual. That changed one autumn night. It was unusually cold, and a thick fog rolled in, blanketing the forest below. As Liam scanned the horizon, he spotted a faint, flickering light in the distance. At first, he thought it was a campfire. Grabbing his binoculars, he focused on the light, but what he saw chilled him to the core. The flames didn't behave like normal fire. They danced and swirled, forming shapes, faces, hands, and eyes, all moving with unnatural precision. Convinced it was a trick of the light, Liam tried to ignore it. But as the night wore on, the fire seemed to grow closer, its shapes more distinct and menacing. Around midnight, the radio crackled to life. "Help us," a voice pleaded, distorted and barely audible. Liam grabbed the mic, but the signal was gone. Moments later, the fire was at the base of the tower. But instead of consuming the wood, it crawled up the structure like a living thing. Panicking, Liam threw open the trapdoor to escape, only to see the flames vanish before his eyes. The air was silent, as if nothing had happened. The next day, he shared his experience with a colleague who told him the legend of the Ridgecrest fire. Decades ago, a group of loggers had perished in a wildfire there. It was said their spirits wandered the forest, trapped in eternal flames. Moral: the past leaves its mark in ways we cannot always see. Respect the memory of those who came before. In a secluded part of the Rockies stood the Boulder Point Fire Lookout. Its isolated location made it both a sanctuary and a prison for those stationed there. In the winter of 1975, Sarah, a rookie lookout, experienced something she could never explain. The season was harsh, with snow piling high and fog frequently enveloping the tower. On one such foggy night, Sarah was reading when she noticed a light moving through the dense mist. At first, she thought it was a snowmobile. But as she watched, the light grew brighter, more intense, and seemed to hover unnaturally. Curious, she stepped out onto the observation deck. The light stopped, hanging motionless in the fog. Suddenly, it shot upwards, disappearing into the clouds. Shaken, Sarah retreated inside, locking the door. But the strange events didn't end there. Over the next week, she heard tapping on the windows at night and found footprints in the snow that led up to the tower but never away from it. The final straw came when she woke one morning to find the light hovering outside her window, pulsating rhythmically. Summoning her courage, Sarah yelled at the light, demanding to know what it wanted. For a moment, it seemed to respond, flashing rapidly before vanishing for good. Sarah left Boulder Point at the end of the season, never telling anyone about her encounter. Years later, she learned that a pilot had crashed near the tower decades earlier, his body never recovered. Some believed the light was his spirit, still searching for help in the dense fog. Moral: isolation can reveal things hidden in the world, and in ourselves. Be prepared for the unexpected. Fire lookout towers, perched above the wilderness, serve as guardians against the natural world. But as these stories show, they also stand as silent witnesses to mysteries and encounters that defy logic. Each tale serves as a reminder to respect the unknown, cherish the present, and listen to the whispers of the past.